In my first year of university, I never would have expected just receiving a bunch of emails like these from my professor congratulating me for my exam work, specifically in courses where I scored over 95% while the class average was in the 70s. For some context, I'm a third-year student studying business at Western University under the Ivey School of Business, so I've had my fair share of multiple choice questions as well as content-heavy exams. So in today's video, I'll be sharing how I transfer my lecture notes into flashcards, how I study these flashcards, and what courses I think these flashcards work the best with. So stick around to the end to get all your tips and tricks and get your 90s. Here's my background information on how I studied in high school. So I did the IB program, so there's a lot of content-heavy courses for like biology or psychology, and for the most part, I never really took like handwritten notes or anything. I literally just copy and paste stuff from like lectures or whatever, and then just memorize using like the bulleting method, teaching method, talking aloud. My final year, I started actually like writing notes. So for context, I would take like these like thin booklets like this. And I tried to be aesthetic, but I couldn't be bothered at the end. So I just did like highlighting, some sticky notes. As I got to university, when I get to these like thick textbooks, I'm like, I cannot remember all this information. I do not have the time to write all of this. And quite frankly, notebook, for example, this course I actually did like the worst in, so I wasn't trying to handwrite notes again. My roommate introduced me to flashcards. I knew about making flashcards before, but again, I was like, I'm never gonna write these. I'm too lazy. I don't want to do it. So she introduced me to like digital flashcards, so using the app called Quizlet, and you can find similar ones like Anki. And today we'll specifically be focusing on tips with using digital flashcards. However, you can also choose to do the same thing with handwritten ones. You just would have to write more, and some of the processes might take longer, but it should still be applicable. So to start, I'll open the flashcard app of my choice. So in this situation, I just use purely Quizlet. Open my flashcard app, then I would split up and create sets of flashcards per unit. So if I was studying units 7 to 9 for this exam, I would create 3 sets of flashcards. So unit 7, unit 8, unit 9. The first thing that I would do is when I'm making my flashcards, I don't simplify anything. I just copy and paste it right from my notes into the flashcards. I would copy like a term and its definition, copy that whole thing from my Google Doc, paste it into a flashcard, cut the term out, paste it onto the other side of the flashcard, and I'm done. That's one flashcard. And I would do all this, so no simplifying, just because I like making those connections personally, and I find that when I'm learning, I'll automatically simplify it so I can remember it better. But if I do that first, I'll miss those connections and then I end up missing a few details. I like to include examples in my flashcard, so whether it's from textbook or lectures, I'll just put it at the really bottom of my flashcard. So I'll have definition, at the bottom I'll put example, period, insert the example. So I try to have this for every card. I like to use the learn function, or put it simply with another platform, you can just make multiple choice questions. So using the flashcards that you've made, put it into an app, into a multiple choice generator, whatever, turn them into multiple choice questions, and this is your first review of your cards. So don't go through it too fast, go through it slowly, make sure you make reasonable like guesses based on what you remember. This is your first initial review. Once I've done all the multiple choice questions for my entire content for one unit, I will go through this again, now using the flashcard function. So your typical like front back. I like to do term first and then definition behind. And how I like to do this is that as I'm doing this, I will spend my time on this section. Like instead of forcing myself to be like, oh, I have to remember this within like 30 seconds, within 1 minute, I should spend like a few hours. Go through it really slowly. So basically how I do it is, see the term, I'll try to remember it, I'll like say it out loud. If I can't remember it, I'll flip it over, and then when I've seen the definition, I'll write it down on a piece of paper. So this is just scribbles. Like I'm not taking any notes, just a loose piece of paper. I'm just writing scribbles of how I remember it, and then I'll put a star on it. So whatever platform you use, just like star it, flag it, whatever. This is one that you'll need help with. And then you'll find that by this run through, because you've done the multiple choice, many of them, you'll be able to get a good idea of it already. You might not be able to get specific wording the first time around, but that's okay. So as long as you have the general idea, then when you flip the card over, just make sure like you see those keywords and you're like, okay, just scribble it down, like this is it for this flashcard. Last review is just repeating all of those terms again, plus your flagged or starred terms. And here, focus is to be able to, as you see the card, write it out, scribble it out, whatever, and you should be able to get most of that information memorized. So usually I only find doing this a few times is enough to learn the content. So when I put this to a weekly schedule, I'll do it once a day. By the 4th day, I will review all of the terms, so all 3 of them. In terms of timeline, I usually like to do this entire process 2 weeks in advance of an exam, and I know that is quite a bit of time, and sometimes you have to cram in a shorter time period than that. But typically for me at least, 2 weeks is like a safe enough time, and I give it a few extra days to like relax, take it easy, review. So I would, the week before the exam, just every day review my units, all the units I made for that exam. So review all the content every single day, do the flashcard function. That's pretty much it. It's only the flashcard, like front back flipping. Week before that, so 2 weeks before the exam, I like to make the flashcards. Sometimes if there's a lot of information, it does take a while to make them, so be prepared to spend at least like a few hours making them. If you do the method I use though with a computer, so not an iPad, and just like copy and paste, it should be pretty fast. So I make the flashcards, then I'll do the like writing as I try to recall it using the learn function, so the multiple choice questions, and the first time review, and then that would be that week. And then, as I mentioned, the week before would just be review. Honestly, even though I set it 2 weeks in advance, it is pretty optimistic, because usually I find sometimes like I'll only end up like being able to study for exam a week before, but this method still works. So if you do the method like 1 day per unit and then start refreshing and reviewing for all the units in the last few days, it should be fine. So the courses I think that flashcards work the best with are the ones that are like content heavy, specifically the ones that test you on specific words that you need to know. I find a lot of science courses have this. Courses that don't require a lot of diagrams or like math, because you can't really flashcard math. So stuff like economics was like a lot of diagrams, a lot of graphs, like flashcards don't work the best with, and believe me, like I've tried, they don't work. So mostly content heavy ones, memorization ones, ones that are straightforward. If you can do a fill-in-the-blank exam for that type of content, then those are the ones that you'd want to put on flashcards. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching. If you end up trying this method and it works, let me know in the comments. And again, this is just a method that worked for me, so don't quote me on it. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.